Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelly, Ethan Janney, and Josh Krieger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
So are hot topics, and we have a few minutes. So maybe Ethan, we can dive into a couple of the exciting things happening in the industry to close out 2021.
Yeah, let's do it real quick here. So first hot topic, Instagram is quote unquote actively exploring NFT integration, says CEO. That CEO is Adam Mosseri, and he says that they're exploring ways that they can make NFTs more accessible to its burgeoning user base. One idea might be to label the Instagram posts that offer NFTs as collectibles. He said there was no official announcement yet, but things appear to be happening behind the scenes. Hey, I mean, my first thought, man, it's taken a while. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they had to join the party, right? I don't use Instagram as much as I use Twitter at this point. Jenkins, I'm sure you can relate to that, but there is still a meaningful amount of NFT activity on Instagram. If they pull this off, how do you think that will shift the balance of social media platform usage?
It's hard for me to say because of the part of the NFT space that I occupy, which has a lot to do with the content that's created around NFTs. Instagram's platform, in my opinion, is not like super well suited for that today, maybe with Reels, but Instagram seems like a great place to display like a gallery or like a collection of NFT images, photography, video, things like that. But you know, the part of the market that I'm in, which has a lot to do with like lore building, I think is much better suited for platforms like Twitter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of our guests and the direction of our conversation here on Edge of NFT says that, you know, the future, like everything's an NFT, right? You know, you tokenize every ownable item with an NFT. So in a sense, this idea of different platforms saying, "Oh, we're going to do it," or "We're not," you know, it seems like maybe it's just a symptom of the early part of the conversation, and later down the road, it's kind of there's no thought about it. That's just what happens. Everything's on chain, but it does raise the question of kind of like there's probably a barrier, right, of entry into like this is just not necessary, right, to create to make something an NFT.
Mm-hmm.
You know, perhaps the programming bandwidth, or you know, the carbon, you know, the carbon expense or whatever is just not worth it, and we're not going to do that. But I don't know if anybody has an answer to that question at the moment. Yeah, it's an analog to, I always think about like how much data do I keep in my computer, right? Like, do I get rid of this old picture, this old file, you know, do I get rid of, you know, all this information that's just being stored? So only time will tell. Let's hit the next hot topic, unless anybody's got anything on that first one. The next one, cash grab or innovation. Let's ask if the video game world is a cash grab or an innovation when it comes to implementing NFTs. So gamers are notoriously skeptical. Electronic Arts faced a huge backlash over a decision to let players pay to unlock certain characters in its Star Wars Battlefront 2 game. And traditionally, players are required to toil for several hours to access such content. There's a recent occurrence. Ubisoft, the French video game publisher, they dropped a video this month showing off its foray into NFTs, and the action was a little predictable. The company debuted a platform called Quartz, which lets players own in-game items such as helmets, and the feature was added to Ubisoft's Ghost Recon Breakpoint game, but the move was met with widespread anger from gamers who slammed Quartz as a cash grab. And some commenters also raised concerns with the environmental impact of cryptocurrencies. So I don't know. What's your opinion? Josh, what do you say?
I just did some Googling, and one website says there's 3.24 billion gamers across the globe. So you got 40,000 negative comments there. I think there's diversity in this ecosystem, and there's diversity in why people are into play to earn gaming versus not. And there's some people in it for financial upside, certainly, and there's other people that really see this sort of evolution of gaming and the experience of co-creation, similar to what Jenkins, the Valet, and Neil are doing with the book side. I think it's more fun to play games that you have skin in the game, and where you're able to co-create that game, and inherently you have to have the right incentive structures. So personally, I think there's always a monetary angle to innovation that kicks things off, but hopefully in the process of the evolution of gaming, people realize the ancillary benefits, not to mention the social economic implications, to support financial wealth. We used to talk about Bitcoin as the great equalizer, but in a lot of ways, I think that 2021 has showed that play to earn gaming potentially has more reach and more economic impact on the world than anything else right now. So those are my thoughts at a high level.
I love that point, Josh, about the great equalizer. And it actually reminds me of an experience that we had when we were out looking for authors. One literary agent responded to us and basically said they would not bring the opportunity to the author that we had reached out about or anyone else that they represent, because they were book people, implying that we aren't. And that was hard to hear, because we're book people too. We're just different types of book people, or book people who are approaching something from a different sort of lens, something that is new. And I think that that's coming up here in gaming too, right? That people who sort of previously didn't necessarily have the opportunity to define the way the games worked now, theoretically could with NFTs. And that obviously, is something that could be unsettling for some of the traditionalists. That said, I think there's one point that is fair on the video game knocks, which is back to my point about sort of the definition of the metaverse. I think what's most important is the interoperability of the whole thing. And so what's cool about an NFT is that it's on chain and the blockchain is public. So anybody can build off of that. If I wanted to go make a website right now that only let you in because you held a Bored Ape, right? Even though I didn't create Bored Apes, I can make a whole product based off of that because that data is available. So when video game companies come out and they're making NFTs, but the NFTs only exist within their own platform, it sort of doesn't make sense. And I get the point there where people are like, why would you go through the sort of development costs of putting something on chain if it's not public? You might as well just use your own database. And so I sort of get that too. To the extent that people are just trying to make centralized games, you might as well just sell goods to people in game that exist in your own database.
Yeah, to the cash grab or innovation question, I mean, my first instinct was, this is all innovation. We're edge of NFT. We love NFTs, but I think I can't ignore where was the backlash coming from? It was the community, right? And I think, it's a delicate territory, right? There's nothing more disappointing than being an innovator where you're doing something, pouring a lot of passion into it, may not even be profitable, and people think it's a cash grab. But at the same time, the audience are the ones that are going to determine whether they like the way it's presented. And this, I haven't researched this enough to find out, but it could be that it's presented in a way where this particular implementation does just feel like a cash grab, as opposed to some of the other ones where people are excited about it. Next hot topic on the list here, Guzzler is shifting the NFT space into the next gear. NFT space continues to develop as the world approaches the cusp of 2022. Just in the last 2 quarters, some NFT game sales have broken beyond $40 million. Facebook has rebranded by Meta, and even brands like Nike have begun to buy out large NFT projects. Seizing this opportunity, Guzzler brings forth a game for automobile enthusiasts that hold strong to their competitive edge, establishing a game where people can obtain operable cars as NFT. Every part of the cars involved in the Guzzler will in fact themselves be NFT. This means that players, owners of said NFTs can mix, match, and fully customize their car to suit their profile and establish their own reputation in the space. That sounds pretty cool. And I think this is like the exploration of the innovations in the space. That's what we're all excited about. There's so much opportunity.
There's a potential collab there, Jenkins. I don't know. That's immediately what came to mind. You know, apes like custom cars, and you know, it's more fun. If you're gonna be a valet, you should valet the coolest cars out there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited about what's possible here.
It's true. This is, I'm on the Guzzler site right now. It's super cool. I mean, it reminds me a little bit with the drag racing. It reminds me a little bit of like Zed Run, except there are more levers to pull when you customize your own car than like when you just like own a horse that's bred. And I think that we probably will end up seeing all sorts of like sports go fully digital, where NFTs represent like athletes or components, and then competition is just sort of like a simulation that people sort of gather around to watch and bet on, and like all of the stuff that we do in the real world too.